Hi guys, and welcome to this week's reading vlog where after spending the past few years at this point clowning for HS4 at midnight, I can sit down today and confidently say that we'll be using HS4, so Harry Styles' new album, because it's out at this point. Kiss all the time, disco occasionally, to choose how long we read my TBR for the span of the next 1 week. And so let's just jump right in, because it's finally time that I get to do this. Such a surreal world that we have a new Harry album out at this point, and what better way to incorporate it than by using it to pick how long I read for, because genuinely this is like my favorite worlds being combined, and as a fangirl this is everything I've ever wanted. So let's just hop right in. So now for context, the same concept I used in my Taylor Swift video from last year is what I'll be incorporating over here, wherein in that video I actually used The Life of a Showgirl, that album, to kind of choose how long I read for, and that's the same thing we'll be applying here. Basically what I'll do is pull up this album, so Kiss All the Time, Disco Occasionally. I'll click on the shuffle button in Spotify so that that option kind of randomly generates one of the songs from the playlist to come up to play, and then whatever song comes up we'll have to go ahead and check how long its duration is for and kind of convert that into reading hours. So for example, if the song is about 4 minutes and 5 seconds, say, I'll be converting minutes to hours and seconds to minutes, if that makes any sense. So 4 minutes and 5 seconds becomes 4 hours and 5 minutes, and that's how long I'll be reading for that day. And we'll basically generate a new song per day, so we have something new to kind of look forward to every single day in terms of our reading duration. And as all of this is coming, I need to read for however long was generated. So I really hope I'm making sense right now, but basically again, if we have like a 3-minute song that's generated and whatnot, we'll be reading for 3 hours, and we'll be doing that every single day to kind of tackle my TBR but also celebrate the new album. And those are the plans for the next 1 week. I haven't generated today's song yet, so I'll have to go look into that and whatnot, but we'll just have to see what happens next. Hopefully it isn't too long, because I am starting later in the day, but even if it is, I will be pulling some sort of an all-nighter today anyway, and so I wouldn't mind a few reading hours coming in, because I have a few fun books that I really wanted to get to over the span of this video, which is why here we are. I'm gonna go start with it now, and I'll see you guys now in a little bit once I have like things to say, whichever song I've generated, whichever book I've started. And already so excited, because this is probably my first Harry coded video I'm doing on the channel, and like I'm literally shaking because that is a monumental milestone in itself. Hi guys, so it's a lot later now in the evening, as you can probably tell from my window and the fact that the lighting is weird, but also please ignore the lighting. It's because there's been a power cut and I'm currently running on my emergency backups, and I know it looks weird, but I want to get back to reading. But I just wanted to come in and update because I have gotten a couple hours on the challenge and I have finished our first book out, and I didn't want to go through long without speaking about the book and whatnot, which is why here we are. It is later, like I said. We did end up generating the song and whatnot, and I ended up getting season 2 weight loss, which now you'll understand the whole point and context of the video and how the challenge is going to work, because that song is 3 minutes and 49 seconds, and if you convert that to my reading time, it becomes 3 hours and 49 minutes of reading. So I generated my timer. I do believe that's there in the b-roll somewhere, and at this point I started and continued reading to the point where I've finished exactly 2 hours worth of reading. We have 1 hour and 48 minutes left on the clock, which means we finished 2, which is great. But within that span of the 2 hours that we did finish, I did manage to get through our first audiobook that I wanted to listen to in this video, which is why I came in to speak to y'all, because I have a bunch of updates to give. But basically, as I was listening as well, I ended up getting this blueprint done for my class. I'm supposed to be building a chair now in my model architecture, which is why that's something I'll be working on now throughout the rest of the day as well, with the rest of the hours we have on the clock. But the book specifically, I did not start it today. I actually started last night as I was kind of making out the thumbnail for this week's upload, and then I continued listening to it as I started the timer for today's. So by that point I'd already finished halfway of the book, which is why I was able to finish so quick within 2 hours and whatnot. But it's done at this point, so I figured I'd just update anyway. This one's called No One Is Safe, and it's actually a new spin-off series by the same author who wrote the None Shall Sleep trilogy. And if you haven't read that, I'd really recommend you read those books before diving into this, because this, while it would make kind of sense, there is background context that you would be lacking if you jump right into this blind. But because I did read those books last year, and because one of the main prevalent characters, or like a side character in those books, is this serial killer called Simon, I was so excited to get into this because he kind of has like an open ending situation towards the end of that series, and so here you actually get to explore it in his own perspective because he's basically the main character of this book trying to figure out what happens next. But basically this is 5 years into the future from where we stopped in that series specifically. I don't want to give you exact details because I'm not trying to ruin the book for you, but basically just know that something happens towards the end of that series, and now here in this book he kind of wakes up with amnesia. It's like 5 years into the future. He's gone ahead and he's gone now to America. Still keep in mind it is the 1980s, and he's trying to figure out who he is, his identity, because he has amnesia and he does not realize that he's a serial killer. He just doesn't know it. And so he is trying to live the most basic bare minimum for life, kind of regular, kind of normal, but still try to figure out his past connections from everything that's being established at the moment. And you know, he's working this butcher's job, which is not exactly normal and whatnot, but it makes sense for his background. He's living in this like apartment sublet and whatnot. It seems to be all okay, except one day he ends up running into this private investigator lady who he kind of teams up with to kind of figure out his own like past details and whatnot that she'll excavate for him. Except the deal goes that if she's gonna help him, he's gonna have to help her in this child kidnapping case that she's trying to crack, because one child, her life is on the line, and Simon has all these like random skills that, you know, he's obviously acquired from like serial killing, but neither of them know it about his past yet, that he can probably put to good use trying to figure out where that kid is before it's too late and whatnot. And so they're working together, they're spending close time in close proximity together, you know, feelings and sparks start to fly, they're building a connection. But as all of that is happening, and as the private investigator is starting to like unearth details from his past, she's wondering whether he's still safe and as stable as he is currently to be around, because he is still homicidal and he still did like a bunch of, you know, horrible things in his past. And all I'll say is this entire book, I just finished it within, I think, in under 24 hours at this point. So that's a good testament to say that I was genuinely hooked, because number one, I would not have expected his story, but the day it was announced on the author's Instagram, I just knew I had to read it, and getting to it now, I'm so happy that I did. It was one of the initial books I wanted to read in last week's video, the new releases and whatnot, but I didn't have the time then. So I'm so happy I was still able to carve it out right now, because it was so worth reading in my opinion. If you have read that series, please pick this up and let me know your own thoughts on it, because at this point, with the kind of stuff he's pulled in that series, you know he's a horrible person, but the author still made me empathetic and sympathetic to his cause and actually enjoy him more as a character and have a good time overall. And then the romance, I was giggling. There were such great bits and whatnot. The banter was great. It was kind of swoony in like a dark romance sort of way, because that's not normal stuff, but at the same time, I'm sorry, I'm down bad. And at this point now, I understand the Simon Gutmanson hype. He is now one of my favorite characters as well. I don't know how I'm supposed to survive a whole year until we get the next book in the series and whatnot, because what do you mean? What do you mean? I think I'm gonna have a crash out. This was that incredible. And yeah, all I'm gonna say is the mystery in this, it panned out really quick. It was really fast paced. It was fun to read about. The whole situation with him and his past secrets coming to light, it's so weird, because in that book he was established as almost like the villain, the enemy, in like a weird way. But here he's trying to like move on from that and become a good person, but still kind of use the almost dark side in him, but for like a good motive and whatnot, the solving of the case that's going on right now. And for some reason I really enjoyed that plotline as well. And yeah, I don't know how I'm gonna have to reconcile with the fact that now he's one of my like top characters ever, but he is. So here we are. The day has come that I'm now obsessing over a fictional serial killer, but apparently that's what's going on. So here we are. The thing I have realized though is anytime we have more of his perspective and more of him in the plot, I definitely do enjoy the book more, because that just happened throughout the entire series. I did not enjoy the first couple of books in it, the original series, None Shall Sleep, isn't that what it's called? That series, but the final book in it, All Shall Mourn, because it was basically all about him. I really loved that, and this one as well, had the best time ever. It just fell slightly short of 5 stars. I don't even know why, but at the moment at least, it's 4.5. I had the best time of my life, and maybe if I keep thinking about it, who knows, I might up my rating, because this was so incredible that I'm shaking. I had the best time ever. I cannot articulate it, and I feel like that's the best feeling when you read a book and you just know in your heart of hearts, in like the internal like emotional sense, that it's gonna be one that sticks with you for a bit. And so here we are. I'm done with this at this point. I will go ahead and pick up the next book I have to read, whatever I want off my TBR for this video, and we will continue to see how much I get through with the timer of that. But yeah, now I'm gonna get going, pick up my next book, and continue working on my chair, and I'll see you guys now maybe in a bit once I have things to say. But yeah, those are the plans. I would like to hopefully get my nails done tonight as well, so maybe continue listening to the audiobook, generate tomorrow's song as well, see how much we've got on the clock. But so far it's already off to a great start because I'm already having the best time reading and listening to Harry Styles music and finishing off my TBR, which is always the best thing ever. So here we are. I'm gonna get back to it and I'll see y'all in a bit. Okay guys, so it's now the next day, and before anything, today's song that I generated and I got, it's called Coming Up Roses, and this is so random, but does this one specifically remind anyone of Chloe or Sam or Sophia or Marcus by Taylor Swift? Because for some reason, I don't know why my brain made that connection, but here we are anyway. This song is 4 minutes and 9 seconds, which equates to 4 hours and 9 minutes of reading, and I've already continued starting the timer and whatnot, and I've gotten to 1 hour and 37 left, because what I ended up doing essentially is using the rest of yesterday's timer to start a new book. I was working on my chair all night. There was no time to do my nails, so they're still bare, but finishing up the chair and whatnot, still doing it this afternoon. Then I continued this morning from the new timer on basically what we have for today, the 4 hours and whatnot, to the point where now I finished the book out and I do have an hour and a half still left on the timer, which I'll go work on after dinner maybe. But I did start a new book in the whole procession, so like between the timer that was left of yesterday and the timer that I finished of today, and I finished it, which is why I've come in for an update, because this one is called Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood, and the story behind this is actually funny. It's because I did not realize that the second one in the series is actually part of a series, and I remember I downloaded the audiobook thinking, oh, this will be a fun summer read, and then later I found out this is part of an interconnected standalone sort of series, and if you want to enjoy that experience, you need to read this one first. And now I'm finally getting around to it, which is why I read this, so I can only just go ahead and listen to that and whatnot, because I've already downloaded at this point, too late to go back on it. But I don't regret, and I know I definitely will continue, because the way that couple is set up in this book, I'm so excited to read about them. But this couple, firstly, because we're speaking about this book, I need to give you a summary and plot about this one. We follow Rue. She has worked very hard in life for everything she's got at this point, because she lived a childhood wherein things were unstable, you can say, and so working to establish everything that's reliable on this front at the moment at least has been her lifelong goal and whatnot. So now she has everything she'd ever want and whatnot. She's got a good stable job. She's working as an engineer in one of the top leading up and coming sort of companies. It's called Klein, and it's run by a woman as well, so she's supporting that. She's got a few loyal friends. She lives a happy life and whatnot. Everything seems to be fine, except one day, as it turns out, there's a hostile takeover situation happening at the company, and one of her best friends, Florence, whose company it essentially is, she could stand to lose everything. And then Rue is concerned about her own job security and stuff, because again, she had an unstable childhood. She worked very hard to be able to put food on the table for herself and know that it's there to get back to when she feels like it. So now she's concerned, she's scared, she doesn't know what she's gonna do next and whatnot, because if the company is gone, everything could go, and she's working on her own patents and stuff under it, so she doesn't want to lose her research and stuff. So she ends up taking the night off, just going to have a chill day and whatnot. And here enter Eli. They have an almost hookup situation. They're gonna have a one night stand, but then something happens and it doesn't go through and whatnot. He just ends up dropping her home. But right off the bat, they have this undeniable chemistry and whatnot, to the point where they swap numbers. They are hoping that both of them will get back to it one day in the future and explore the connection, because there seems there could be something between them. Except the next day, when she gets back to her company and whatnot for work to figure out the hostile takeover situation. This is so funny. But the people who are coming from the opposite company that are leading this and whatnot, it's called Harkness, one of the main partners of the company, and basically the person who's leading the takeover is Eli. So now on the outside, they're very much opponents and stuff. She doesn't want him to take the company. She wants to kind of save it and find other investors, but then he has his own goals and sort of appropriate reasons, you will find out at the end of the book, to kind of take over the company. And so he has those aspirations to work forward to, along with the rest of his partners and whatnot, who've been vying for this for years at this point. But now that they had their accidental run in the previous night and they know there's something between them, the way it works is that they have this no strings arrangement arrangement wherein outside of the lab and outside of the company they can kind of hang out and do whatever, and then it's really physical. But then while they're in the workspace, they're very much like, again, enemies and whatnot. So there's that dynamic. They won't like interact and whatnot, and even if they do, she's very hostile towards him and trying to save her company and stuff. And it's really interesting, the plot, because it starts off really physical, and then the first half of it I was just like, I don't think I'm enjoying this very much. It is my second Ali Hazelwood book. The first one I read was Deep End, and I didn't like that very much either. So I was wondering if her books are just not for me overall, and if I should even waste my time kind of going through the next book in the series, because genuinely it did not feel like my cup of tea. But I feel like this is a very trust in the process book, because while we have a physical connection to start off with, as they start spending more time together, it starts becoming emotional and they like care for each other. And then there's the stuff with the hostel takeover, which is like a whole story in itself, that when you figure out like the plot twist at the end, it is insane. But as they're hanging out and kind of being around each other, they're starting to acclimate and whatnot, be exactly right for each other, starting to fall for each other, but they cannot be in love. That's why not in love with each other, because again, they are on opposite sides and it's very much like life or death at the moment. And so all I'll say is it definitely took a little bit to build up, but I'm so happy that I stuck with it, because I genuinely enjoyed it. Like the second half of it, tell me why I was swooning, having the best giggly time, rooting so hard for them and like waiting for like fun happy moments between them, kind of praying that they get their happy ending, because I actually kind of loved the dynamic. It grew on me and I don't even know when, but it did, and I had the best time ever. So I think I'm gonna give this like 4 stars, because I really enjoyed it. I'm just taking off the 1 star because at the beginning I was kind of unsure about it, but I'm still happy again for having stuck with it, because I feel like this was like a trust in the process, worth it kind of book. And if you make it towards the end and you kind of get the whole picture of it, it does make a lot of sense why the author chose to write it that way. And I personally had a good time going along with it. If you do want to though, you can definitely look up like triggers and stuff, because this isn't your typical like rom-com and stuff, and there's like other things that happen in it as well. But I feel like that also adds to like the emotional connection that's being established, because they figure out in which ways they're just right for each other, soulmates. So that's fun to read about, and overall I had a good time. So 4 stars, happy I read it, had the best time, and now I cannot wait to get to the next one in the series, because the way it's been advertised is kind of like an age gap romance, and the couple in that, the way they had so much like tension and chemistry established in this one, that already I just know I'm gonna eat it up, have the best time ever. And I almost do not want to save it for when I go on summer vacation. I just want to devour it now, because I just know it's gonna hit really hard. So here we are, I'm done with it now. With the rest of the time, again, I will start a different book, because we still have some on the clock, and I'm thinking it will be past midnight, maybe even start tomorrow's timer after all of this is done, to continue listening and pull some sort of an all-nighter today and finish out our next book along with some of tomorrow's timer, because I have a few things to finish off for college before submitting them on Thursday. That's the last day, and today is Tuesday, which means I really need to buck up and kind of work towards those, including the chair, including a written project that I've gathered details for, but I need to handwrite. And so in the midst of everything, I will go work on all of that. I will go finish it out hopefully and finish out our next book. But already great vibes and feelings throughout and overall, because I just know that it's gonna hit so hard and be so fun, because already I'm having the best time reading. And what do you mean? But also it is kind of expected, because Harry Styles is like a good luck charm, so it does make sense that this is one of the only videos that I'm not suffering with in a reading slump at the moment, because it's Harry related, if you know what I mean. So I'm gonna get back to reading now. See you guys in a bit, and that was the update. Another day, another update, because I got another book done. But before anything, I had about like an hour and a half, I think, left on yesterday's timer, and then I generated today's song and ended up getting the waiting game, which was 2 minutes and 50 seconds long, which equates to 2 hours and 50 minutes of reading. And so I started the timer, I continued it and whatnot. So I started like a different book yesterday with our remaining timer, and then I continued today as I continued today's timer, and now we have 1 hour left on the timer that I've gone ahead and finished our next book out with today's timer as well. Does that make any sense? I had some left over from yesterday and then some from today's timer to kind of finish out our current read, and so I finished the new book out, and I still have 1 hour left, which means after this update I need to go back into reading and whatnot and start something new. But for now, I did finish a book, so I wanted to kind of update about that, speak on it really quick before we move on to bigger and better things, because so far this challenge has just been so insane. I've been finding literally the best books ever, so I feel like maybe the streak is just gonna continue. Who knows? But so far, right now, I ended up finishing the book called Her Last Breath, which is the new Taylor Adams book. And if you've heard this author's name, or at least on my channel, I've read one other thriller by him. It was when I was coming back from vacation, I believe 2024 December and whatnot, and it was like a road trip back, and that was like a road trip book called No Exit. And so I was kind of listening to that as we were at like rest stops and stuff, and then freaking myself out because it's one of the best thrillers I've ever read. And I don't know why I haven't gone back and like binged his backlist, because I know I have one on my physical TBR. All the rest of the books he's ever written, I want to get to it. It's just I haven't had the time. So when I actually found out that he's coming out with a new book this year, because it literally just came out a couple of weeks ago, I knew I instantly wanted to get to it, and I put it on my 26 to read in 2026 list. And I really wanted to read it last week in the new releases video, but there was no time for it towards the end of it, which is why in that video specifically I mentioned that we had a few thrillers to get to that I wasn't able to, and so pushed back to this week because I knew I wanted to read it anyhow. I knew it would like slay, and it absolutely did, which is why I'm done at this point. So happy I picked it up. This took no time whatsoever because I was audiobooking, and it like sped through because I was also listening to it sped up, but also because the story itself was fast-paced and very engaging, was not able to put it down, and I had the best time ever. So I've come in for a quick update on my experience of it, because y'all need to pick this up if you haven't already. It's so worth it, and here we are. Now enough for the backstory. For the actual premise of this specific book, we have best friends Ali and Tess, and they've been best friends like growing up since they were kids and whatnot. They have like a past history that kind of will always bring them together. It's kind of shared and whatnot, but apart from that, they've still always been really close, except in recent years there's been this like divide that's been starting up because they're living like different sort of jobs and careers right now. They have different like tax brackets, and obviously there's different feelings that come attached with that, because we have Ali, who's like a travel influencer at this point, so she goes about traveling and making money off of that. And then we have Tess, who's working as a legal assistant, and she's very much in like debt because she had to put herself through law school and, you know, kind of burden those expenses. And so she's very much jealous of Ali because it feels like Ali's always got everything growing up, and now it feels kind of unfair that she gets to live this glamorous life that she's obviously worked for, but at this point, in Tess's opinion, that she doesn't have to work for at the moment, because she can travel and do the one thing she truly loves but still make money off of it. And then there's Tess kind of struggling in debt, owes a bunch of money, is kind of struggling with her job as well, hates it and whatnot. And so because of that, because of the growing resentment, they find this situation coming up wherein they have like differences, and now there's like a divide in the friendship, like I said, and they don't know how to reconcile it. So one day Ali ends up suggesting that they end up going on this caving trip to like spend time together and kind of get back to the good old days when they used to be like thick as thieves and they didn't have any of those feelings toward each other. Basically get more time to hang out and kind of sort things through between the two of them. Except as they end up going on the caving trip, things don't really go as planned, because Ali, she is more accustomed to the caves. She's a travel influencer, she's more used to this. But Tess, she's like a introvert and whatnot, very shy, very claustrophobic. It's not her idea of a good time, and so already right off the bat she's not getting great vibes going in. But once they actually get into the cave and whatnot, there's this man waiting out at front, and originally he lies and tells them that he's working with the caving company and stuff, which, you know, obviously they figure out he's not telling the truth. Then he starts behaving all weird, flirting with them, offering to like take them along on the cave expedition, show them around, hang out with them, and he's just being weird and harassing them overall. So Ali, like I've already established at this point, she's like an extrovert. She's loud and she will mouth her opinions if anything comes up. She kind of insults him and asks him to like leave them the F alone. And because he's a man and he cannot tolerate shit like that, literally the smallest man who ever lived, he takes it in the wrong sense, because a few hours into their cave experience, after they leave him behind, they go ahead with it, they figure out that he's been following them all along, and suddenly things don't seem so great anymore, because now they're stuck in this cave in the bottom of the ground, literally like 90 feet under. At some point it becomes 200 feet under. There's like crawl spaces and stuff where they cannot breathe, and they're stuck in like the water and shit, trying to get away from him because he's like armed to the teeth. He's come to like literally hunt them down because he could not tolerate it. It kind of hurt his fragile ego. And then this is one timeline. The other timeline is 24 hours later, when you find out that Tess is actually one of the survivors. You don't really know what happened to Ali as of yet, but you are assuming she died because Tess has been found by the cops and whatnot, and she's being interrogated in this like hospital room, trying to recover from her injuries that she's sustained and kind of bring up the story and tell it to the NYPD, I believe, detective that she's speaking to, as the detective tries to like solve the puzzles of the case together. But as they're going over the pieces and whatnot, you start to understand that maybe this attack wasn't so random, because apparently Ali has been on the federal radar for like tax fraud and shit. And then not just that, there's like pieces and secrets of Ali's past coming to light that suddenly Tess is wondering what the hell she walked into a day earlier, and praying to God that, she's lucky and grateful that she got away with her life intact. But then as you keep reading, things are not as it seems, because there's like a bunch of like theories and lines and plots coming into play, and you're trying to figure out what connects to where. And if you want to, this is like one of the books when you literally need like a corkboard to kind of figure out with like pieces of string and stuff, like an actual detective, what's happening, because you get pieces. But I feel like the author is such like an incredible storyteller that he does it in a way that he's almost like holding back on certain details, and then he goes back to add on to context, and suddenly when you know the full picture, it's insane. So like right off the bat, he starts off telling you the whole story, but the way he tells it, you're on the edge of your seat to find out more. And when you do, it's the most insane, wild, like crazy, unimaginable twist ever. And he went there. Another thing I really want to talk about is the fact that I've noticed this before with No Exit and stuff. Can't wait to watch the movie that came out for it. But in the book specifically for that one as well, he doesn't care about his characters in a way that he's attached to them. He's literally okay with them facing any consequence just so the plot can go ahead and you're on the edge of your seat with your heart beating in your throat because you're worried for these characters. And so he's like a wild card author wherein you don't know if he's going to kill off the characters just so you get entertainment. And so that adds to the emotional value as well in the best way possible, and that also contributed to me loving the book. But overall, I'll say I had the best time anyway, because the twists are so insane when you figure out what actually happens towards the end of the book. I was shaking the very last page. I don't know if that was the epilogue or the last chapter, but it's in someone else's perspective. And when you get it and you finally get like resolution almost for everything, and the very last sentence is literally 3 words, but it had me tearing up because what do you mean? Went on such like a roller coaster ride with the characters. Had the best time ever. And all I'll say is this was an easy 4.5 stars. I had the best time truly reading it. And now this is also going to be one of my top thrillers. So worth reading, and I can't wait to get back to more of his backlist because I had the best time ever. So now moving on, I do have 1 hour left on the timer, which means I do have to start a different book. But I'm not sure if I'm in the mood for like a Kindle book or audiobook right now, because I do have some work to finish, but also I'm feeling lazy and I just want to chill in bed. So we'll see what I end up doing. I will have to start tomorrow's time at some point, and maybe I will be staying up past midnight, so maybe we'll start early today, who knows, rather than starting later in the afternoon like I've been doing every day. Hopefully I will have another book done by the time I come in an update, because right now I'm on such a roll with such amazing reads that I hope it continues, because I'm having the best time ever reading Slump. And so I'm gonna get back to it and see y'all in a bit. Bye. Okay, so update time, because it's now the next day. I have gone ahead and finished today's timer surprisingly early, because otherwise I've been staying up past 12 trying to finish that day's timer and whatnot. But today I think was like the smallest we've got throughout the entire week, which is why I was able to round it off and do it. But essentially today's song is called Paint by Numbers. It's 2 minutes and 27 seconds, so that equates to 2 hours and 27 minutes of reading. And I had 1 hour extra left over from yesterday's after we finished yesterday's book, and did not start anything else. So combined that total, stayed up yesterday, finished that 1 hour, and then today caught up with the rest because I did have to go to college. I did have a lot of spare time during my commute. I went ahead and finished our next book. So keep in mind, I had already started this on Kindle a couple nights ago when I didn't have anything to read before bed, which is why I was able to finish in the remarkable amount of time that I did, because I'm not that fast of a reader. But also it was like a quick short book, so I feel like it just flew by anyway, which is why I'm done at this point. There was a little bit that I had left, the epilogue and like 1 chapter around the time the timer went off, which is why I just continued reading and figured we'll finish it off for today instead of leaving like 10 minutes worth of reading for tomorrow. And so I'm done with our next book. This one's called Her Pretty Lies. I've come in for a quick update, and then I'll see you guys directly tomorrow on tomorrow's day, starting afresh, because we have no timer left from today, which is just insane and such like a nice thing to say. This one's called Her Pretty Lies. It was sent to me as an ARC a couple years ago, but I never read it around the time it came out, and now I saw it on my Kindle as I was browsing looking for something to read a couple nights ago, and so I figured now is a good time as any to pick it up, which is why I'm a couple years late reading it. But anyway, thank you to the publishers for my copy. This one is really interesting because we have the typical thriller format, but things are not so typical in what actually goes down in this. We have Kendall, who is living the perfect life. So she's got the perfect boyfriend. He works at this bank, so he's like already off to a good start in life. Then she just got selected for this like graduate fellowship and stuff, so now she's getting a grant to pay for her college fees and give her extra money to pay for her expenses, which means she's not gonna be in debt and whatnot, and she's really grateful about that because she's pursuing like psychology at this really prestigious university. And she has like a situation with her mom wherein things happen in the past. She doesn't want to get back under her thumb, and so she'd rather pay for everything by herself. She doesn't come from like a rich family and stuff, rather than ask her mom for help and go back under her thumb, and that's something that's going on. And she just also closed the lease on this like perfect beautiful new apartment, bayside and whatnot. Windows are perfect. It's like hotspot for college students because she got the fellowship money and whatnot, so she's just gonna use that to pay for it as part of expenses and whatnot when it comes into her bank. Except a few days later everything goes wrong because something went wrong with the fellowship, and apparently now she's not getting any money, at least not as of yet. And the college lets her know that if she cannot pay her fees in installments and stuff, she's gonna lose her spot there. So that's number one. Number two, she loses the apartment because she cannot pay for it. And number three, she figures out that her boyfriend's cheating on her, so suddenly she's alone, she's kind of broke, and she's homeless. So here enters this one influencer who comes in with a bunch of like pretty lies and whatnot, telling her that if Kendall is ready to take her classes and whatnot, basically commit academic fraud so the influencer can pass, she'll pay her like a decent amount of money, not as much as the fellowship, but she'll pay her quite a bit so that she can still put herself through college and not lose everything else that she's still got left. And Kendall, because she's run out of options, she ends up doing it anyway. Except fast forward a couple of weeks and whatnot, and you figure out that this influencer girl was lying all along. She's dead and everyone thinks Kendall did it. Basically, she was being set up for her murder by someone, and so you're trying to figure out what's going on with that. There's a bunch of other mysteries connecting, so with her past, Kendall specifically, her family background and stuff, because there's like a bunch of stuff up in the smoke and you're trying to connect the dots. And then there's things with the fellowship that you're also trying to understand in the whole mix. And for real, I'll just say I'm kind of confused about my rating because I binged this book, do not get me wrong. I read it in a couple sittings, and so it definitely flew by, but I feel like the ending was unsatisfying because the author just put so much stuff in to the point where I was trying to grasp one thing and something else is happening, and maybe we could have cut down on a little bit of that. But also the kind of stuff we did get, they were all just so unsatisfying, almost like half-hearted plot twist that you could guess if you put your mind to it, really. And they were just like kind of expected, not something out of the fancy, out of the blue and whatnot, not something that'll blow your mind. And so not the best ever, which is why I'm between like 2.5, 3 stars. But I'm thinking I'll be generous to give it 3 at the moment because I did binge it and I did get through with it fast, and I was excited to see where it would go next because the chapters were kind of fun. They were like small, so I was like flipping through my Kindle, going through all of it. You get to see present timeline and then her past timeline from her diary, figure out the kind of things that happened in her past. But apart from all of this, I would also like to say, and I'm not trying to be mean, but this book would have really done better with an editing job because the writing style, it just felt so childish and immature to me. Just the way they talk feels just so not normal. It feels like if the movies, when they're trying to make their life look picture perfect and everyone's their best friend and stuff. Because I'll give you one example. She ends up contacting the influencer through that influencer's Instagram and stuff. She lets her know that, hey, I'm Kendall Good, can we meet up? And like 5 minutes later the influencer goes, yeah, and they literally meet up on campus. Like, what do you mean? They don't know each other? What about like serial killer threats and trying to stay safe and whatnot, and that anyone who texts you on Insta, you don't really like message them back and stuff. And so we have that, and there were like a bunch of scenarios leading up just like this one. Cannot think of anything specific like it in the moment, but just believe me when I say every time it was just so cringy the way it was happening, which is why, again, not my favorite book ever, but it wasn't the worst either. It was a good way to pass the time, frankly, and I'm just happy I finished the timer off early, so I'm not like complaining and stuff. But yeah, I'm done with this now. I choose my happiness in the moment over my comfort in the future, which is why I still have like a bunch of assignments to get to and I haven't gone ahead and completed them, which means we'll be on an audiobook grind now, and I'll figure out what I'm picking up next because I do have to get to a couple things right now, and maybe we'll start tomorrow's timer early, who knows. But at the moment, as of this current moment, I'm gonna go have dinner because I'm hungry and I haven't eaten, which is why see y'all after that. Gonna take a mini break and we'll catch up later. But that was the update for today. So far we're kind of slaying with the challenge, and let's just hope that it continues this way because I just need a good book at the moment, and hopefully the next one will deliver. Okay guys, so it's update time because it's now the next day. I did take kind of like a chill day and whatnot because I didn't want to work too hard. I've been stressing the entire week, and now that it's the end of it, the weekend is literally right around the corner. I wanted to take it easy, so I generated a song in the hopes that we wouldn't get something like Aperture. I'm just so grateful that's the one song we haven't got throughout this video, because that's like 5 minutes long, which would equate to like 5 hours of reading, and I don't have it in me to do it. So far I don't hate the song, I just don't want it for this video because I can't do 5 hours. I went in with hopes high and I didn't get too much of a bad number. I feel like it could have been worse because I got the song Taste Back, and it's 3 minutes and 41 seconds long, so that equates to 3 hours and 41 minutes of reading. And so far I finished the 3 hours. I was actually listening to my next audiobook and I finished it, so we have 40 minutes left on the clock. The phone is there charging and whatnot, but just know 3 hours are done, the next book is done, and I wanted to quickly update because my food is actually on the way, and so really want to finish with this fast and then go wait downstairs to like pick it up and whatnot. But basically it's McDonald's night. I read a new Christina book. It wasn't my favorite, but I still feel like the night could not get any better because it was still like a fun rom-com, and so here we are. This one is called Something Wilder, and it's not like their usual concepts. Me saying that as I've read only a couple of their past works and whatnot, but this one specifically, we follow this girl called Lily. Father is the famous treasure hunter Duke Wilder, so all like the Reddit pages and stuff, they're obsessed with him and they kind of fangirl after him because he's known widely for his like treasure hunting and, you know, looking up maps and doing all these fun crazy adventures. And one day there's this rumor that floats around that he ends up finding someone called Butch Cassidy's treasure, and now he's set up his own treasure hunt so other people can go and find that, because if you would find that and then you equate it to real life, it could easily go up to like 15-20 million dollars of real money, and people just really want that money because they can obviously use it. Except even though he's well known online and well loved online, he wasn't necessarily growing up because he's been like an absentee father for Lily, and so, you know, she doesn't have the best time reminiscing on his memories, especially knowing that at the very end he was too busy gallivanting off on his adventures. The ranch and the bills got left to her to the point where she lost it and she had to sell it off and whatnot, so she doesn't own it anymore. He's dead at this point, she has nothing in life, and so at this point she's working as an employee, kind of running the treasure system still to kind of use the treasure monopoly that he attracted under his name so that more people still come and kind of pay so that she can kind of keep her job at this point, which is why now she's conducting like treasure hunts and stuff. And now enter Leo. He was like her boyfriend back in the day. There wasn't like a tag on their relationship, but they just knew that they were each other's soulmates and stuff. If something happens in the past timeline and suddenly they have like the worst like breakup ever, wherein it's like miscommunication, ghosting and stuff, and so they don't expect to see each other like so many years down the line. But fast forward to present day now, his friends have booked like a treasure hunt with her company essentially, and she's going to be the employee that's taking them along on it. And they didn't realize, at least at the beginning, that it was Lily, his Lily, that's going to be doing that. So now, you know, they're meeting up all these years down the line, they're hanging out, and he knows that he really wants to reconnect for good with her because he regrets what happened in the past and he misses her. She's not ready for it, and for a little bit she is stern on that fact for good reason, until she starts caving. But as all of this is happening in the background, the whole treasure thing with the Butch Cassidy thing that I mentioned, apparently it wasn't a rumor, apparently it's true, and she could really use that money at that point to like buy back the old ranch because it's back on sale again, and so have it in the family again, but also use the funds to like spend her life now with Leo as they're falling back in love. Except they need to find that treasure, go on all these like crazy, almost like goose chases to like get to it, because her father was like really incredibly smart and he's done quite a great job hiding it in riddles and trying to figure out where to put it, so no one can just simply find it. They have to work hard for it and go for it for the adventure's sake. That's the book, and all I'll say is it isn't like their regular book, because I definitely feel like they were trying something new with the adventure and the love and whatnot, but in my opinion there wasn't a good balance, because the adventure thing, it was kind of underwhelming, it was kind of predictable and cheesy and hallmarky towards the end, and then the whole thing with his friends, they were just such dude bros. Every time they were mentioned, I tried literally not to throw up because I was getting so cringed out. It's kind of obvious what outcome it would take. But then the thing with their love, the reason I'm saying it wasn't well balanced is because they've met within 3 days of like knowing each other again, and this is them reconnecting after over a decade at this point, and he's offering to like use his hard-earned, almost like salary money that he's been saving for all these years to kind of help pay for the ranch and buy it back. This is at the point where they haven't found the treasure yet, and they've known each other again only for 3 days. They knew each other in the past, but they've reconnected only for 3 days, so that felt really weird. The whole thing between them progressed a little too quickly. There was no connection. I feel like it was just all telling rather than showing that in the past they used to be really good and now they would work again if they tried again, but when they're actually trying, it doesn't work for me. There was no emotional connection established, and it was kind of lacking the usual like Christina Lauren charm and wit. Maybe because it's like an older book of theirs, who knows, but here I am anyway. I'm done at this point. This definitely could have probably hit harder if I read it during like proper peak summertime during vacation, but still I'm done with it regardless. Not really in the mood for like another rom-com at this point because this was a bit of a disappointment, so we'll see what I pick up next. But for now I'm gonna give this 2.5 stars. Not a bad book, it's just it wasn't for me specifically, and I'm just happy it's done because I didn't have the best time reading it. I definitely feel like a few things could have been improved and changed for the better. The connection could have been made better, little less focus on the mystery so we could have more setup for the romance, because otherwise it defeats the purpose of a romance book simply because no balance was established between the two. And a little more, I feel like, oof moments for the mystery, because if you're trying to like balance a romance and a mystery, I would expect a little more from the mystery as well. But otherwise I'm done anyway. I still had a good time because it's Christina Lauren, and now all I'm gonna say is I can't wait till I save the rest of their backlist to read this year on summer vacation, because I know I really want to get to it bad, and I will, and that's gonna happen. This just reminded me that I need to get to it, which is why that's still a good sign, and I'm done at this point. So now, end of the update, I'm gonna go wait for my dinner downstairs, continue reading like the last 40 minutes of today on my Kindle as I'm waiting and whatnot, and then have dinner, probably hang out with y'all later tonight, have a chill day like I've been aiming to do, and I'll see y'all now directly tomorrow for our final day because it is Saturday, the end of the week. So let's see how tomorrow's goes, but so far I feel like it's still been a great day, and I can't wait to see what the next 40 minutes brings us. Hopefully a better book, because at the moment I'm not having the best time. Hi guys, so it's technically like one day past the final day of the challenge because I didn't come in an update yesterday, but it's update time now because I do have to go ahead and post this video tonight, which is why time for my final updates on all the last books I finished, and then an outro because I have quite a bit to say. So here we are. I think by saying it out loud in my last clip, I jinxed myself because I feel like this entire week I've been so lucky with getting songs that were just enough in the terms of length for me to kind of listen to and then have them convert to our reading time. So I have just enough needed for that day specifically, how much I had time to read. But yesterday, I think it's because I said a day before, I ended up getting Aperture, and that's not a bad thing, but that's just insane to me because that song is 5 minutes and 11 seconds long, which equates to 5 hours and 11 minutes of reading. And already the day before that, I did not end up finishing like the 40 minutes of that day and whatnot because I ended up having dinner, then watching my show with my little sister, and then after all of that, didn't really have the time. So yesterday, it kind of added up to like 6 hours total because I did want to catch up anyway, and that's crazy because in a day, I don't mind doing 6 hours. It's as long as I don't have other things to do. And Saturdays these days, I've usually been liking going back and rough cutting all my vlogs and whatnot because I love posting Sunday night specifically, and that kind of lessens my work for Sunday itself. So because of the stress of having to rough cut and all these other things, I wasn't able to finish the full 6 hours yesterday. I definitely failed, but I did go ahead and take off the remainder of the time that was left and finish it out today, which is why we did fail the challenge, but I did finish the last day's timer. It just took me a couple days to do it, and today wasn't going to be as part of like song generating and reading anyway because Sundays are hectic for me again in terms of posting, which is why technically the video would have ended on tomorrow's timer anyway. So in a roundabout way, I did fail, but I did finish the reading time, and so please excuse me for that. But because we got 6 hours, I did do a lot of reading that apparently gets you a lot of books read that I did not realize, and I finished 3 books. So I have come in for like a quick rapid fire almost update because I know no one wants to sit and watch me talk about 3 different books for the next half an hour. I personally don't feel like editing it, which is why I'm going to cut it short, speak really quickly about all 3 that I managed to get to in the last day and whatnot, our last Hail Mary, and then that'll be the end of this video because we did do the challenge, and it's crazy that I did get Aperture towards the end, but I did get it anyway, and so here we are. No regrets though because I did finish a couple of fun books off my TBR and now I can discuss with y'all, which is why here we are. First book, this one's called Little White Lies by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I read her Natural series a couple months ago, had the best time, and then recently when I found out that it's actually getting another book in the series, I just knew that I want to go ahead and binge more of her backlist before that comes out, so I have like more fun kind of anticipating that, which is why I picked this one up. And it's supposed to be like rich class, high people society drama and whatnot, and it's really interesting because we follow this girl, I think her name is Sawyer, and the way it works is that her mom is moms, the single mom. They work very hard to kind of make their living because they're not very well off in life. Except one day, as it turns out, her estranged grandmother shows up on the doorstep. And keep in mind, this woman is really wealthy. It's just Sawyer and her mom don't interact with them anymore because her mom, when she was younger and she was pregnant with Sawyer, they kind of kicked her out of the family because apparently the person she was like having Sawyer with and whatnot, her father, he was like an older married man, and to save everyone's reputation, she was like let go and whatnot. Except at this point, Sawyer's kind of resenting the fact that, you know, they did that to her mom, but she still wants to know like secrets behind like who is her father and what really happened back in the day, which is why when her grandmother comes in with the deal to like offer her this like crazy amount of money to come spend like the ball season with them, the debutante season, she ends up agreeing just so she gets like a clue of the high society around them and try to figure out who her dad is. Except as all of this is getting on and whatnot, she starts getting tangled up in the scandalous lives of the elite at that point, and suddenly she's becoming one of them. She's losing sight of who she really is and what her real mission was. And you know, at some point she ends up getting arrested, so that's like present day timeline. You're trying to figure out what happened, and then past of her kind of going along with it. And it's really interesting the way it's written because she is definitely working hard for it. There's such like a tangled web of lies that it could potentially be anyone because there's so many like suspects out there, which is why quite a complicated story. And this one personally, I feel like it was longer than it should have been. It was interesting, don't get me wrong, but there were moments I was getting bored because I feel like it's not the natural series and I should have known that going in, and I did expect a little too much from it. But personally, I feel like there were a few moments that could have been sped up because it was again longer than it should have been. But otherwise, you know, the drama was fun. The ending, like last plot twist, I wouldn't have seen that coming from a mile away anyway, so that was cool to read about. And overall, I'm not like sad I read it or anything. I definitely want to continue the series because I know it's like a duology and I know we'll get more answers in the next book, which is why I'm gonna give this like 3.5 stars. Not a bad read, but just not my favorite, especially in comparison to the naturals. I feel like nothing will compare to that specifically, but I feel like this was still good in the meantime as we wait for the next book in that, and I'm happy I got to it anyway. And there were a couple cool scenes in here as well, so overall no regrets. The next book that I ended up reading, this by the way, the previous one, the audiobook, it took me 2.5 hours. The next book, it was a novella, it took me about 1 hour, and then the book after that was another like 2.5 hours, little over that in terms of audio. So we definitely did exceed our 6 hours and whatnot, just barely, but we did end up doing it anyway. But the next book was actually a novella. I started it on Kindle. It was actually sent to me by the publisher, so thank you so much for my copy, because again, should have gotten to it when I got it as an arc, but I didn't, and so I'm happy I'm catching up now. But it's set on Valentine's, so if you want to read it, save it for Valentine's because it happens all throughout the span of Valentine's Day itself, which is really fun to read about. We have our main girl, I think her name is Hannah, and she has this thing wherein after a couple years she's finally putting herself back in the market and stuff, back in the dating game, because she's been let down by men at this point. But you know, she's excited to open up again because she thinks she's finally found the one on this like dating app, this guy called Marco, and she's gonna see him on this like date and whatnot on Valentine's, have the best day ever hopefully, and kind of see how things turn out with him, especially because she hasn't been trying anything for the last 2 years. She's just sworn off of men completely, except as a man, he ends up ditching her anyway, so she's disappointed. Her Valentine's gets wasted, she gets ghosted by him, and suddenly she's pissed off with the way she's been like mistreated almost as a woman for the last couple years, which is why she figures she has his location, so she's just gonna go ahead and confront him. Except it's not such a great idea because she doesn't know it yet, but he's actually a dangerous man, and so she's potentially putting herself into this like harmful situation that she wouldn't be able to find her way out of because there's like mafia ties and shit involved. So now enter her next door neighbor, this man called Damon, and he has this thing wherein before he bought the entire apartment complex, the man who had it originally, he had like cameras installed into each living room of the person, and when Damon bought the complex, she doesn't know he's a landlord yet, but when he bought it and he found out the cameras were there, he just left them anyway for the welfare of the people because he's like a good stalker in a way. There's like elderly people there, he, you know, watches them and pays their bills and stuff and do all these other things. But her specifically, he didn't take it out because he's not like good in that sense. He's kept it because he likes watching her, kind of memorizing her habits and shit, and he's basically stalking her because he's like obsessed with her and stuff. Except they've not interacted once since he's seen her again a couple years ago, since she moved into that apartment block. Except now when he realizes that, you know, she's gonna go confront Marco and stuff, and he knows who Marco really is, he ends up like going along with it to make sure she doesn't get into any sort of danger. And as they start hanging out on this like crazy day of crazy things that's happening, they realize that they have a connection and they want to see it through. And because it's a novella, it's very physical, but I feel like also you can't expect too much from a novella. I don't think I've ever enjoyed a novella looking back. Actually, no, I have. The one I've read by Taylor Jenkins Reid and the one I've read, the two I've read by Frederick Bachman, I've enjoyed those, but they they aren't like fully necessarily romance, which is why I enjoyed them. If it's fully romance, I don't think I've ever enjoyed one yet, because I feel like it goes from 0 to 100 very fast. There's no connection established with the characters, but then again, you cannot expect a lot because it's only 80 pages long, which is why it definitely did its job for how small it was. The first half of it was really fun to go along with. It's just the second half that kind of fell flat for me, because I feel like it became too crazy with like the mafia and all these other crazy things going on, and then their connection as well, and the way she forgave him for everything, and how out of pocket it was becoming, because at some point he says that he's like copied Marco's phone onto his own phone, but then right after that, in the next chapter, when he figures out that, oh, she's actually going out with Marco, he's still enraged. And like, wouldn't he already know if he's done the copying and stuff? And then apparently he doesn't leave his apartment in the first place, so how did he do the copying? But anyway, lots of crazy things. I can definitely spot a couple loopholes here, but still it was a fun book to go along with. Kind of small, so it kind of flew by anyway. And again, would recommend for Valentine's specifically if you want something quick to read if you're in a slump. But for me personally, I like something with more connection, which is why it wasn't my favorite book ever. It definitely was fun to go along with, but just not something that'll stick with me, which is why I'm going to give it 2.5 stars. Still not a bad rating for a novella, because that's what I rate novellas anyway, which is why that was our second book. For our final book, I ended up reading this one called The Wishing Game, and I've been wanting to for like years at this point, so I'm finally happy that I got to it, because ever since it's come out, it's been so overhyped online that I just wanted to know what it was about. And I'm so happy that we're ending this vlog off on this, because it's such a banger that I feel like is the perfect conclusion to this video. Basically, we follow this girl called Lucy in this, and she, growing up, her sister was kind of ill, and so her parents would kind of look after her, and thanks to that, Lucy kind of grew up abandoned and lonely and neglected and whatnot, which is why now in present timeline and whatnot, she's like a 27-year-old teacher and whatnot. And at this point, there's this one kid that she teaches in her class called Christopher, and his parents actually died in this tragic accident, so he's an orphan now, and he's being like moved around from like foster home to foster home, and she kind of connects with him, and she wants to provide him his own like stable home, which is why, you know, she's working really hard, a couple jobs back on end, so she can become his mom, look after him, because she kind of relates to his struggles and stuff. She wants him to have like a good childhood, except she doesn't have the money for that, and now time is running out on the clock, and suddenly it looks like their wishes might not come true. Except you don't simply forget a wish, because miracles can happen, because for context, the way these two originally started connecting was from reading this one book series called the Clock Island series by Jack Masterson. And as it turns out, that author at the moment, he's very much older and whatnot, and he lives on his own like island off the coast and whatnot, Clock Island. And for some reason, a few years ago, he stopped writing books and whatnot. Everyone tried asking him why. He's just kind of detached from like the world and whatnot, considered like an eccentric man. You just don't know what he's up to. Except now something's happened that in present day, he's written one exclusive Clock Island book to kind of tie up the entire series and whatnot, and he's not selling it off to the publishers. Apparently there's only one copy in the entire world, and he's gonna like handpick a few people to come on his island to kind of play the game to kind of win it, so like his own bunch of riddles and tricks like what happens in his book series. And the thing is, Lucy kind of gets selected for that alongside like 3 other people who also have their own like equally important reasons to kind of go win it. So now she is desperate to be the one who actually gets it, because if she wins that only copy of it, he's such like a renowned author that if she were to go outside the island with it as the winner, she could potentially sell it off for like 6 to 8 figures and then kind of build a life for her and Christopher, which is her main goal at the point. Except as she gets to the island, she realizes that maybe the game wasn't about the book after all. Maybe Jack knows more than he's letting on, because he's like this like father figure to so many kids out there that he has his own mastermind plans. And if anyone's ever like read about Willy Wonka or watched the movies Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, read the book, it definitely gives those vibes with like the crazy fun entrepreneur man, and then there's like the golden ticket situation. That's what it feels like with the book, and I definitely see the comparison there. So I will say I had a good time reading it. I feel like the mystery and the riddles and stuff, I had so much fun going along trying to guess along with it. The whole thing with everything she is working toward, I really love the connection between her, the author, between Christopher, everyone else that was introduced. There was like a mini romance subplot that I also ate up, because I feel like it definitely balanced out the book really well, and anything you'd want from a fun book, this one delivered. So I had a happy fun time reading. It definitely felt very whimsical, cozy, just sweet to read overall, gave me like warm vibes, and I'm so happy I got to it now because I had so much fun with this. It's actually insane. I don't know yet what I want to rate it, maybe like 4.5 stars, because I literally just finished 1 hour ago, which is why I'll go think about it, and in the next couple hours when I'm editing this final clip, I will put my final rating. But it's still very highly rated because I still had an amazing time, and I can't wait to get to the rest of the author's backlist right now, because I do believe she's got a couple more books out at this point, which will be fun to get to, I feel like, especially during fall time, because this would be perfect for then. And so I'll be doing that in a few months now. But that was the final book I ended up getting to in this video, and now we have reached the end of this vlog. If you guys had a fun time coming along with me, like, comment, share, subscribe. YouTube things, you know how to do them. And if you've got more albums that you want me to use in this sort of situation, wherein we use it to kind of pick how long we read for together, let me know, because I had a fun time doing this. Harry was my good luck charm in this video, which is why I feel like I'm definitely out of my reading slump at this point. I'm having fun reading again, which is such like an incredible thing to say. So thank you, Harry. But we're done now at this point. If you have read any of the books that I mentioned in this video, definitely let me know in the comments so we can kind of discuss, because I read so many fun ones in this video that I'm just so happy and I feel great overall. But yeah, now that we have reached the end of this vlog, I'll see you all directly next week for another fun video, and until then, take care, stay safe. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and because that's the end of this video, I'll see you all. So that's it. Bye.